Hello, everybody. Okay, so welcome back to the channel. We are starting up J.R.R. Tolkien's Fellowship of the Ring. So this is the Hearthguard book club, I guess part 2, if you will. We have finished The Hobbit. We are now on to the Fellowship of the Ring. This week, we are only going to be discussing the prologue, which is the concerning Hobbits portion. These chapters are beefy, and as I learned through the course of our discussions with The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings was written for adults, whereas The Hobbit was written for kids. So Tolkien really upped the ante on, I guess you could say, language, phrasing, terminology, etc. in this book. Even just reading the prologue, I was like, wow, I see a massive shift in his writing. So we might be taking this a little bit slower, not really sure, but thanks for tuning in. I know this is very different content for YouTube, but I appreciate you guys watching. If you're not already subscribed, please consider clicking that subscribe button and turning on the notification bell. I'm going to try and be better about uploading these better than I did with The Hobbit. But anywho, so thanks for tuning in. I'm going to get into the VC and we're going to start talking about Tolkien's Fellowship of the Ring in the Lord of the Rings series. All right, thank you. Let's see. What button am I looking for here? Alrighty. Hello, friends.
Hello.
Ew.
Okay, so I know we originally said that we were going to do the first couple of chapters, but as we all know, had a bit of a rough start to this book reading. So we're going to start with just the concerning Hobbits prologue, which, as Calder said, is beefy in and of itself with discussion points. So I was like, you know what? This is a good way to dip our toe in to the Fellowship of the Ring without jumping in the ocean of the deep end. So, and as I told our readers, our viewers in my little intro, I noticed, even just in this prologue, I noticed a massive shift in Tolkien's writing from, as we discussed repeatedly in the Hobbit discussions, I saw a massive shift from the Tolkien writing for children in The Hobbit versus Tolkien writing for adults in Lord of the Rings.
Definitely.
Even just in the prologue. Sorry. Even just in the prologue.
Yeah, he doesn't hold your hand as much just from the bat.
Yeah. Which was, I mean, I know you guys warned me, so I'm not really like surprised. But at the same time, I was like, oh, we're coming out with a bang from the get-go. Roger that. Okay. Anybody else have like just overarching thoughts about the prologue from the get-go before we like dive in on anything in particular?
Not as of yet, no.
Okay, good. Okay, cool. All right, so who wants to kick us off? What's something that somebody liked, didn't like, confused about, etc. in the beginning part? Anybody want to kick us off? It could be anything. I don't care. Good talk. Okay, so I found it interesting that obviously, like, right at the beginning, Tolkien references The Hobbit, like the book, and he talks about it as like, you know, the there and back again, and like, you know, it's Bilbo's tale and it like his journey and stuff like that. And it was cool to see him like discuss hobbits as like a race of Middle Earth from the get-go, because it's almost like, you know, if you hadn't read The Hobbit, it's like, hey, here's like the little synopsis version of what you missed, and like who we're talking about, who we're dealing with, who our main character is going to be, etc. Which I thought was like interesting, but also as somebody who obviously we had all just read The Hobbit, it was kind of like, huh, interesting, you know, to like read it as somebody who did read The Hobbit versus somebody coming in cold turkey to Lord of the Rings as a whole.
Something that I think you can touch on just in the first paragraph almost, where he talks about the Red Book of Westmarch, and then he also says, yeah, that's the title of The Hobbit. throughout the entire book, and it's even pretty prevalent in the prologue. Tolkien uses like multiple names for a singular thing.
Okay.
I mean, Aragorn's like a really good example because it starts off, being known as Strider, and then he becomes Aragorn, and then he's Elendil. So like right there, he's got 3 names, and that's a pretty common phenomenon throughout Tolkien's work. So like the Red Book is also the Hobbit, which is also there and back again, and he hits you just like as something for your viewers to look out for. He hits you throughout the prologue with multiple people that we're gonna know in the company, in the Fellowship, but with under different names.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, maybe I didn't like. I wouldn't say I didn't pick up on that, but like maybe I didn't grasp that as heavily. Maybe I don't know what I'm like the right wording there, but like maybe it didn't like hit me as much the first time reading through it. But I can see what you mean by that, like because I've also seen posts on like Instagram and TikTok and various other social media platforms where people will reference Aragorn as that third name that you said, and I'm like, okay, by context clues I know who we're talking about, but from like somebody who's only watched the movies and is now reading the books, I'm like, whoa, who are we talking about? Yeah, like who is this person? I don't know who you're talking about, kind of thing. Yeah. And so that is something that is going to be very interesting, I guess, to pick up on as we go through this.
So that actually stems from an old English tradition called kennings, and so you would have multiple names for different things, like even in like the Viking traditions, you had things like that. So you'd have multiple names for like Odin, for instance. Gandalf actually comes from that because it means like wandering elf, and so different names would all exist as ways of identifying a subject for a certain group of people because they'd know them by a different name.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
like the Red Book of Westmarch is the first part is The Hobbit. The second part is The Lord of the Rings, and that's written by Frodo it as a framing device, and then Samwise later inherits it.
Yeah, there's a few pages left or whatever the line is in the movie. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I did like that, like, like I said, it kicks off about hobbits, talks about like their size reference in relation to like some other like prominent races in why am I blanking here?
Middle Earth?
Thank you. I was just like absolutely brain farting. I was like, it's not Westeros. We're not reading Game of Thrones. Okay. Anyway.
At least I didn't say Arda.
Yeah, see, another name.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, Arda is the proper name for Middle Earth.
Oh, good. Let's complicate things more, shall we?
We can.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, and then I think it also talks about obviously the the Bandobrastook, and he was like taller than most and everything, which obviously we remember from The Hobbit, which was kind of cool. Yeah, it was just cool to like kind of get caught up kind of thing. I definitely, I guess you could say, like, struggled sometimes with like the time passing that he talks about a little bit, of like those days, the third age of Middle Earth are now long past in the shape of all land, like, and it's just like, whoa, okay, wait a minute, then what age are we in? What all has transpired? Where are we at? And I'm not saying like, oh my gosh, like how dare he throw in these details to elaborate upon the world more, but more of just like okay, hold on, again, like jumping in the deep end a little bit of like, okay, what is a frame of reference of time passing, and how does time pass in this, and et cetera, et cetera.
And then he hits me with Shire Reckoning, which is a completely different year
yeah,
format.
yeah, and I was just like, oh my goodness. I did like, though, the little kind of like breakdown of the four, what was it, the four different, he says, breeds in here of hobbits: the Harfoot, Stores, Fowlhides, oh sorry, three different, sorry, I don't know why I said four, three different like breeds of hobbits, Harfoots, the Stores, and the Fowlhides. And it was just like describing them, and it was like, okay, well, at least from my recollection, we don't talk about that in the Hobbit, so that was kind of interesting to have a little bit more of a backstory of, you know, Hobbit lore, I guess, or, you know, just filling out their way of life.
If I'm not mistaken, he actually wrote this prologue for the second edition. Was it, Tim? When fans kept asking for more information on the Hobbits.
I do believe so. Because I know after the original Hobbit, there was a lot more context needed for people, and then in so the second edition of the Hobbit, he added a bunch of stuff to connect it more to the Lord of the Rings. After he started on that.
Interesting. That makes complete sense.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Yeah, and then it's kind of like, I think it's like talking about, you know, the journey, right? Because it's like the or no. No, I think they're just talking about how certain hobbits were more friendly with elves and stuff like that. I'm just like skimming for, let's see. Oh yes, thus began the Shire Reckoning. For the year of the crossing of the Brandywine, as the hobbits turned, the name became year one of the Shire, and all later dates were reckoned from it. And then I have a little like cross sword symbol to reference a footnote that says, thus the years of the third age in the reckoning of the elves and the Dunedain may be found by adding 1600 to the dates of Shire Reckoning. Tolkien! Like, my guy!
Everything is really exact, because he would get pummeled with letters and questions and people trying to point out inaccuracies. So everything is very exact with him.
And that's fine, but it's just like the fact that in a prologue, again, yeah, like you said, it had to be added in the second edition, but it's like we're in a prologue to the first book of the trilogy, and there are footnotes to elaborate upon the already elaborate notes. My guy. Like, anyways, sorry, it's just like, yeah. And then they talk about the I found it funny, even though it's spelled differently than how we spell it. It's like, and they chose from their own chiefs a thane to hold the authority of the king that was gone. And I was just like, oh boy. Like, I know it's spelled differently, but again, it just kind of, it made me chuckle. Yeah, and then, like, you know, they throw in more things here: the dark plague, the long winter, the days of Darth. I'm probably absolutely butchering that, and somebody will probably be like, you pronounced it incorrectly. I've been studying Tolkien for my entire life. How dare you?
I think it's Darth. I'm pretty sure it's Darth.
I'm looking at it kind of like death and add an R, so like Dearth. I don't know.
Yeah.
Death.
They also, I don't know if you saw it, they mentioned the Witch King, where they call him the Witch Lord.
Wait, where?
Earlier. Just a little above that paragraph, or in that paragraph, just a little above.
Oh!
The Witch Lord of Angmar.
Oh, yes.
and the hobbits
in the
actually
Battle of
fought.
Farnos.
Oh yeah. Interesting.
I think that would be the days of dearth.
Dearth. The days of dearth.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is all predate, like this is all long before like Bilbo and Frodo, right? Like this is like
Yeah, no, this is dealing with things in between the last battle against Sauron and the events of the Lord of the Rings.
oh, okay. 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 Um Oh yeah, it even says here it's like at no for me it's on page 5. At no time had hobbits of any kind been warlike, and they had never fought amongst themselves. In olden days they had, of course, been often obliged to fight to maintain themselves in a hard world, but in Bilbo's time that was very ancient history. Yeah, it said the last battle before this story opens, and indeed the only one that had ever been fought within the borders of the Shire, was beyond living memory, the Battle of Greenfields. I guess SR would be Shire Reckoning 1147. Yeah, it's during Bandabras Took era. Interesting.
That's year 2747.
Well, yeah, you take 1147 and add 1600 to it. It's 2747 in the third age of Middle Earth. Did I do that right? Did that sound about right?
Yep.
That sounded about right.
Nailed it.
Yeah, I nailed it. Nailed it. Let's see. Yeah, and then they just talk about like, you know, the expansion of the hobbits from just like a like this is where we're at. Building farmhouses, the extent of their land.
Well, it mentions the Dunedain. I mean, it had before in the footnote, but also in page 6, which again, really important to the Lord of the Rings as a whole.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's one thing I'm very excited about, because like in the movies there's a lot of references to things, and like, you know, like I think of when oh gosh, brain fart, when Eowyn is bringing Aragorn that delicious soup, and she's like, you're one of the Dunedain, you know, descendants of Numenor, blessed with long life, you know, and all that jazz. And it's like, well, and then she was saying like, you know, it was said that your race has passed into legend and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, so from context clues of the movie, you know, emphasis on from the movie, you know, it's like, okay, so this was like a group of people, they had long life, Aragorn is one of them, / you know, has family relations in there, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, who the heck are these people? But then I'm also like, it's like I need to whip out a family tree here about how Aragorn, you know, distant cousin a million time removed or whatever to, you know, King of Gondor, you know, kind of thing. It's like, how in the heck did we get here, kind of thing. So
oh, they do that. They do that.
Oh, good, excellent. Was I about right? You know, like second cousin million time removed. No, I'm kidding.
No, yeah, I think he's direct, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
He is the direct descendant. He's not.
Wait, so then, quick side tangent, because this is probably jumping ahead, but like, how is Aragorn a direct descendant of dude whose name I'm completely brain farting on if he died? Did he have kids?
Should we tell her, Tim?
I mean, you can if you want.
Just say yes or no. Did he have kids?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I need to know. We'll get there. All right, then that's how he's a direct descendant. Got it.
It's one of the big parts they left out of the movie.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll get there when we get there. Obviously, in the movie, it makes it look like he is a bachelor when he dies. So it's kind of like, how? The math ain't mathin'.
It's immaculate.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. It is probable that the craft of building, as many other crafts beside, was derived from the Dunedain. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we talk about house building. The houses and the holes of Shire hobbits were often large. Yeah. And then I like how there's a whole section concerning pipeweed, which, if I remember correctly, isn't that a line in the movie or something? I know that I know what pipeweed is. Like, it's like, and or something, or maybe I'm trying to. Never mind. Ignore that question.
You might be attaching it to shortcut the mushrooms.
Maybe. I don't know. But then I did like how, where was it? Wait a minute. Wait. Oh gosh. There was a line in here where I was like, "Oh my gosh, this makes it so much like this makes things." Oh yeah. So in, oh gosh, I guess it would be the beginning of the Return of the King, when like Aragorn and Legolas and Gandalf and stuff come to Isengard after the Ent thing and everything, and they're, or well, and I guess it would have been the end of the Two Towers actually, but when Merry and Pippin found the stockpile of stuff, and like a previous part where Pippin was like, what was it? What I wouldn't give for a whiff of old Toby, and I was like, okay, well, again, context clues, I can kind of get what he's going for, like some kind of, aromatic herb or flower, or whatever, or something, whatever. But then for me, it's on page 8, and oh yeah, and then at the end of Two Towers, he's like, long bottom leaf, and find his pipeweed in the South Farthing, and it's like, here it is, like, for me, page 8. But all accounts agree that, I'm going to butcher this, Tobald Hornblower of Longbottom in the South Farthing first grew the true pipeweed in his gardens in the days of Isengrim II, about the year 1070 of Shire reckoning, which would be 2670 in the Third Age of Middle-earth. The best homegrown still comes from that district, especially the varieties now known as Long Bottom Leaf, Old Toby, and Southern Star, which I don't think it's ever referenced as Southern Star in the movies, at least that I can think of, but it's definitely mentioned as Long Bottom Leaf for sure. And then Old Toby, at least the way Pippin uses it in the movie, kind of sounds like almost like a, slang's not the right word, but like a nickname, or like a, if you say it, people know exactly what you mean.
I think they're different strands.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I think so.
Oh.
No, yeah, there's supposed to be different strands of it.
Ah, okay. Well, never mind. Let's see. I like this line right after that. How old Toby came by the plant is not recorded, for to his dying day he would not tell. I just found that funny.
Tolkien wanted to go to bed that night.
Huh?
Tolkien wanted to go to bed that night.
He's like, too much detail.
Yeah.
We'll just kill him off without telling anybody. Let's see. Oh yeah, and here's another reference to the Dunedain, but even the Dunedain of Gondor allow us this credit. Hobbits first put it in pipes. Not even the wizards first thought of that before we did, though the wizard that I knew took up the art long ago and became as skillful in it as in all other things that he put his mind to. Which is like, shocker. Again, we see him blowing boats, smoke boats, ships. Yeah. And then, so then we're into like the part 3 of the prologue. And, we're talking about like how the Shire is divided, which again, it's like, guys, I'm wondering what were in these letters to Tolkien to be like, we need some elaboration as the exact like layout of Hobbiton, please and thank you. latitude and longitude, please. Like street names, house dimensions. Which direction was this door facing?
I'm pretty sure most of this prologue was written in spite by Tolkien, because he got like buckets loads of letters.
I believe it. You gotta wonder if any of the, like, I'm sure they do, but like how many of those letters still exist.
I know a good amount of them existed for a long time.
Oh, I can only
I'm not
imagine.
sure how many would still exist.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta wonder, because it's like, if you're getting that much fan mail, it's like, how much of it do you really want to keep? And then second of all, you know, once Tolkien passed away, it's like, did his kids want to keep them? And then...
Well, Christopher kept quite a lot.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was a big advocate for his father's work.
Well, that I did know, because he published a lot of the, like, unwritten stuff. Or unpublished stuff, I mean, sorry. And everything. Yeah. Wondering, like, how long he kept it. Let's see. Oh, I did like this. The whole, like, it is true that the Took family had long been preeminent, for the office of Thane had passed to them from the old bucks some centuries before, and the chief Took had borne that title ever since. The Thane was the master of the Shire Moot, and I'm again, when I see some of these things, I just see, like, you know, I just hear, like, Yoren being like, oh yes, all the Jarldoms come together and we'll have a moot, or whatever, you know, and I'm just like, or what is the word? Yeah. Right? Isn't that the right word? I don't know. Yeah, but I just read this and I'm like, I can just, I'm just picturing the Hearthguard as hobbits, and like, just, you know, that's like, I don't know, it's just funny.
Fully armored but really small with the same sized heads.
Yes. And captain of the Shire Muster and the Hobbitry in Arms. That's what I need to, like, just change the Men at Arms channel to one day, just and see if they notice. I know, Tim, you're in here.
I've noticed.
Yeah. Oh man. But just like change it to Hobbitry in Arms. There you guys go. Have fun. And yeah.
I mean, the perfect day to do that would be coming up.
All right. Well, Tim, let me know. Let me know. Tell me when.
Well,
I'll make it happen.
Well, no, because the month is about to change.
Mm.
We could call you guys the Bounders.
Eh?
What?
That would work perfectly. That's the like, I guess the slang term. That's the third name for the Hobbitry in Arms, like the sheriffs.
Oh my gosh, that's adorable. Yes. And captain of the Shire Muster. I love it. I love it. Let's see. Yeah. It's just like, yeah, the Tooks are very, they're very prevalent. Congratulations. Let's see. Oh yeah, but the offices of Postmaster and First Sheriff, spelled with 2 R's and 2 F's. Let's see. The Messenger Service and the Watch. It's just cool. Like, whether he wrote this in spite or, like, actually had this all planned out, again, it's just, like, the level of freaking detail is just insane.
Yeah.
I think some of it was also done in hindsight, just having, like, had so many people ask about it that he was just like, oh, well, I can actually expound on this, and then it just grew. It was like, oh yeah, I can explain that, but then rather than make a whole book just about that subject, you know.
That makes sense. Okay, so section 4 of the Finding of the Ring. Yeah, this I felt was like probably the part that I admit I probably like skimmed the most. Not like skimmed, but like I started reading really quickly because it was like, this is The Hobbit in TLDR form. Or at least like that chunk, you know, where he's in the mountain with Gollum and like everything, and like kind of the like, okay, he's with Thorin Oakenshield and they did this thing and and he was the Erebor in Dale and the king under the mountain, and it's like, yep, okay, got it. Was there anything in this section for you massive Tolkien nerds that was like different than The Hobbit, or do you agree, like also think that it was like it covered all of the big points of The Hobbit, or is there something that's like blatantly added here in this section 4 that isn't in the book?
I think he pretty much hits the major points and doesn't. I don't think he strays at all during that summation.
Yeah, I think it was a kind of a way to get people caught up without having to necessarily catch them up.
Sure.
He figures, yeah, the people who are going to be reading this will probably now be adults. Then I'm not going to have to just expound every bit to them.
Sure. Yeah, I felt like it did like a good job of hitting those things, but I was like, well, maybe I missed something. You know, maybe I'm not remembering something the best.
It does, I mean, fill in some of the question marks that the book leaves, like whether or not Gandalf believes Bilbo initially about where the ring came from. Like on page 13 for me, it straight up says Gandalf disbelieved Bilbo's first story.
Oh, yeah. Wondering if you and I have the same edition, because mine is also on page 13, right at the tippy top.
I have the 50th.
I thrifted mine from McKay's in Tennessee. Let's see what mine is. I mean, I have my really, really nice illustrated copies, but I was like, I'm not gonna crack the spine on the really, really nice ones.
Yeah, I need to go get a paperback, because if you look at the book club channel, I posted the picture of mine, and I'm scared to crack the spine.
Ooh, yeah, nope, yeah, no, I would baby the living daylights out of that. I have a couple. I bet I have. I know you guys can't see it, but I'll show it to my video, and you guys can go watch it on YouTube. Wink, wink. But this is the version that I have, and I have like all 4 of my books that I'll be using for the book club purposes, or this series. I got them at McKay's for like a couple bucks each, because I wanted to have like my own set of copies, because my parents have a really old, not like first edition or anything crazy like that, but like just a very old paperback set of the books, and those things have seen better days. And I was like, if I'm gonna read these, I want to have, like, I wanted to just have an air quote cheap set that, like, if the corners got dinged up, if, you know, they got dirty, if they accidentally got, you know what I mean? Like, I don't abuse my books, but like I try and take really good care of them. But that's why I prefer having hard copy or hard covers to paperback, just because like if I'm gonna keep a book really nice, I'd rather have it in hardback. But I'm like, for this, it's like, yeah, I can get all the really bougie versions and keep those on my shelf, but I need a book, like I need a copy that I can actually read. And then I have the little like box set of the leather bound ones. I have those too. Anywho, that was a slight derailment for 2 seconds. Sorry. Let's see. Let's see. I did like these last like little mini 3 paragraphs before the note in the Shire records of just like little bitty things, you know, his sword he hung above the fireplace, and his and his coat of marvelous mail, you know, he lent to the museum, you know, and stuff like this. And it's just like, you know, like interesting. Which when I read that, I was like, well, in the movie he ends up giving it to Bilbo, or sorry, yeah, no, Frodo. Bilbo gives it to, oh my gosh, my brain. Bilbo gives it to Frodo in Rivendell, you know, kind of thing. So I'm like, well, he must have gotten it back out of the museum then. Yeah, and then let's see. Oh yeah, I was about to ask. I was like, wait a minute, what birthday is it? Yeah, 111th birthday.
His 111st birthday.
Oh yeah, I know. It's so weird. So weird. I mean, it makes it unique, which I like. Like, I'm not saying it's weird from like a like, oh my gosh, how dare he say it that way? But it's like it's just strange, you know, because we're used to being like 111th versus 11st.
111st.
Yep,
It's like
111st.
It's so weird. If I ever make it to 100 years old, that's how I'm going to address my age.
It was to kind of keep the tone of the Hobbit for the initial.
Oh sure.
Three chapters.
Absolutely. No, now that you say that, it's like, oh yeah, like that, like very whimsy.
Yeah, you'd read in the Hobbit.
Yeah, very whimsy, very yes, 1000% yes.
Well, the Hobbits are also based off of like the simple country English folk who are supposed to be hardworking but enjoy like the simple pleasures of life.
Sure.
And because of that, that's why he maintained that kind of feel for them, because they'd have little anachronistic like phraseology, because it's the sort of thing like you find out in the middle of like the English countryside.
Makes complete sense.
And that was a big part of it, because he that was what he reckoned the Shire to be, was just the simple, like, pleasant, like Oxfordshire, like if you're out in like the farms and stuff. Silencio. Sorry,
Yeah.
no, my dog is on my chest.
Aw, it's adorable. Well, this last little bit, the note on the Shire records. Again, it was just like little things that were just like interesting. You know, like the whole like the largest of these collections were probably at Undertowers at Great Smiles, and the Brandy Hall. This account of the end of the Third Age is drawn mainly from the Red Book of Westmarch. That most important source for the history of the War of the Ring was so called because it was long preserved at Undertowers, the home of the Fairbairns, Wardens of the Westmarch. It was in origin Bilbo's private diary, which he took with him to Rivendell. Frodo brought it back to the Shire, together with many loose leaves of notes, and during Shire Reckoning 1420. Wait, 1421?
1421.
Oh. I gotcha. That makes sense. He nearly filled its pages with his account of the war. One thing that I found is interesting, both like from reading the book as well as like the movies and you know, just seeing, again, being like on the Lord of the Rings side of social media and stuff like that, is like we call it, we call it, you know, the Lord of the Rings, but you know, it's like this story, the trilogy, is the War of the Ring. Like that is the, you know, if you were to say like, you know, World War One, World War Two, the Civil War, it's like that's a era, like a chunk. It's a war title, you know, kind of thing. And it's like this story of the Ring, Sauron, the Fellowship, everything like that. It's like that's all part of the War of the Ring. Like, boom. And I don't know. I just think that's cool because it's like that's the title of it, the War of the Ring. And I'm sure you're probably gonna jump in here and be like, "There's 5 other names for this chunk of history, and that's just one of them, and it's known by all these other names that you can't pronounce and you can't spell, and but they're known to that. He'll tell us." I'm just being snarky. Yeah. And then
at the bottom of page 14th, and I misspoke before and I said Elendil instead of Elisar, but it mentions the the book was a copy made at the request of King Elisar. Elisar is Aragorn's third name.
Yes, I did remember when I read that. I was like, I bet that this is Aragorn, because unless it's somebody that, again, through passed down of generational like knowledge, why would anybody else know to preserve this when it's like Aragorn lived it and he's like, no, we're gonna preserve this, preserve it. Yeah, and I did like how it was the right before that, or a little bit before that, the whole like in Minas Tirith, it received much annotation and many corrections, especially of names, words, and quotations in the Elvish languages, and there was added to it an abbreviated version of those parts of the tale of Aragorn and Arwen, which lie outside the account of the war. And I was like, huh. And it's like the full tale is stated to have been written by Barahir, grandson of the Stuart Faramir, sometime after the passing of the king. But the chief importance of Findegil's copy is that it alone contains the whole of Bilbo's translations from the Elvish. These 3 volumes were found to be a work of great skill and learning, in which between 1403 and 1418 he had used all the sources available to him in Rivendell, both living and written. But since they were little used by Frodo, being almost entirely concerned with the elder days, no more is said of them here. It's just like, that's a way that like Tolkien touches on it, and he's like, this air quote existed, like this existed, this book, of all these translations, and Bilbo did the things, but Frodo didn't need it, so we're not going to touch on it here anymore. Let's see. I mean, I think the only, other thing is just here at the very end. It's like, it talks about the departure of the High Elves. Oh, and I did like this because you guys referenced Elrond's sons, plural, right? Sons, when we talked about The Hobbit. And I did like in here, he talks about them, and there, though Elrond had departed, his sons long remained, together with some of the high elven folk. It is said that Celeborn went to dwell there after the departure of Galadriel, but there is no record of the day when at last he sought the Grey Havens, and with him went the last living memory of the elder days in Middle-earth. That also, I think for me, that last little line kind of hit harder than, not brought me to tears or anything really dramatic like that, but reading that, I was like, holy crap, right? When the elves left, as it says, right, it's like the last living memory of the elder days in Middle-earth. And it was like, wow, to think that, because in the movies, you're like, okay, Galadriel and her husband, which I always love those memes where it's like, just remember, Galadriel had a husband. Yeah. It's like Galadriel and Elrond and Gandalf the White and, blah, 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 blah. They left. And it's like, yeah, you kind of get this feeling like they're either the last or some of the last elves to depart, especially considering, you can also tell that some time has definitely passed between when Frodo and company got back to the Shire and when they go to Rivendell to take Bilbo and all that jazz. So it's like, we know time has passed, so probably more elves have gone. We also know through the course of the movies that elves are consistently going to the harbors to leave Middle-earth and blah, blah, blah. But, to hear that line of, and with him went the last living memory of the elder days in Middle-earth, it's just like, wow. That means that the only thing left is written documentation. There's no tales anymore. There's no passing of it verbally. There's no, hey, Celeborn, what happened, in your first 100 to 200 years of your life? How'd that go? It's like, there's no asking about it. It's all just like, I heard this from somebody, or I read this in this book or whatever. And it's like, especially I feel like with something like how Tolkien references time passing with like the different ages and like, you know, this chunk of time, etc. You know, it's the fact that that chunk of time is now like, boom, door closed, memories, like that's it, like, you know, whatever. Like, I guess like, yeah, we could kind of say that, you know, you could say the same thing, so to speak, of like, I guess like, I don't know what's a good correlation, like anything like that's beyond living memory, or living memory, right? Like nobody a lot, like whatever, you know, whoever the oldest person is who remembers their youth, it's like before that we have no, you know, verbal like storytelling of those times, but like, I don't know, it just sounds very final the way Tolkien says it here at the end, and it just was
It's
like
when the,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, just to give, like, add to what you're saying, it's kind of like when the last American Civil War vet died. It was like nobody.
That's a great
around.
way. Yep, that's a great way to put it. I was trying to like put it in that kind of yeah, exactly. And it's probably going to be it's going to be the same when World War One, World War Two, Korean, Vietnam War veterans, like those, like you said, it's like that's going to be not it, obviously. Like we have history books, we have stories and stuff like that, but the first-hand account, there we go, the first-hand account of those like crucial, pivotal, you know, monumental events in history, like, you know, I mean, you could say that about anything. You could even say like signing of the Declaration of Independence, or writing of the Constitution, or striking of the Liberty Bell. I'm literally pulling National Treasure like out of my head right now. But like,
It's kind of like
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Like if that's the reference you got to make, it's the reference you got to make. We're all understanding what you're putting down, though.
yeah. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It just felt very like final and definitive, and very just like, well, there goes that. So, okay. Well, while my eye is watering from all the pollen that it has experienced today, does anybody have any final thoughts about this air quote chapter? No? Okay. My eye is watering profusely. Sorry. What was that?
very detailed.
Yeah.
Very detailed.
Yeah, very. Oh my gosh, my eye needs to stop watering. Yes, very, very detailed, which that's what I said to our viewers in the little like intros, that I'm like, yep, that's what we're in for with this, is like a dramatic shift in writing style from The Hobbit to Lord of the Rings. And that's okay. But it was just like, oh, yep, okay, that's happening. So I'm really excited about it. And I know that we'll be discussing like from a more manageable, because like I definitely want to be, if we're going to be still starting at 9 for our book club meetings, I definitely want to be conscientious of like, I know that when we start getting into the thick of it with these, I know that we're going to really let discussion flow. So it might be one of those things that even if it's slow going, we might, from a being able to actually talk about it, go chapter by chapter, pending lengths of chapters, but we can discuss. But anywho, well guys, this has been amazing for our first Fellowship of the Ring discussion. And again, sorry about last week. But I'm really excited that we're diving into book 2 of our Hearthguard Lord of the Rings book club, but book 1 of the trilogy. And yeah, so we will discuss in the Discord about what we're definitively reading for this week. Some of you rereading, some of you pulling, rereading memories from when we read it for last week or whatever. But we'll discuss about that, and then we'll make sure everybody's good for next week as we get closer. And we will be back here next week for more reading. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, glad to be of help.
Yay. I love learning about all this stuff. It's so cool. Makes it so much more interesting. So I can't wait for once we really get into the thick of it. So I will see you guys in the Discord, and we will be back next week for more discussion. Good night, everybody.
All right, night.
Okay, so that wraps up Concerning Hobbits, the prologue of the Fellowship of the Ring. I just call it Concerning Hobbits because I know that there's like mini titles for all the little sections, but the Concerning Hobbits section of the Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, we have now completed discussion. So most likely, if you want to read along with us, most likely we will be doing chapter 1, which is titled dun, 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 A Long Expected Party. So that is likely what we're going to be starting with for next week's discussion. And thank you guys for being here. If you stuck around this long, thank you so very much for watching. Sound off in the comments if you've read these books, whether it's The Hobbit or any of the Lord of the Rings or anything like that, or if you've only watched the movies. I'm very curious. Yeah, if you haven't already, please click that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next one. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Good night, everybody.